right, good morning. We have a jump lesson on decimals greater than 1 today, and there's tons of examples in this lesson. So feel free to skip to the next colored section if you know that one part is really easy for you, and feel free to go back and look at it when you're working if you run into something difficult on your math assignment. Tons of examples. Okay, so here is the boss question. Adding fractions and decimals together and getting one answer. Give that a try. Okay, so a quick review for writing a fraction as a decimal. So 6/10, for example, you would write as 0.6 because this is our 10th place. Go ahead and try the other ones. Pause the video. And 34/100ths, you would write 0.34. 8/100ths, 0.8, because this is our hundredths place. 0.7 for 7/10ths, and 0.07 for 7/100ths. So again, hundredths place, tenths place. All right. So now we're going to write mixed numbers as decimals. And for this part, we just have a whole number added to our fraction. So we already know how to write the fraction as a decimal, 0.3. And this 2 is a whole number, so it's going to be written before the decimal point. So here, this one is 2.3. And this next one, 2 is written before the decimal point. And now this part tells us what comes after the decimal point, 4/100ths. So again, the whole number is before the decimal point. The fraction is after the decimal point. So here are some practice problems. Please pause the video and try these to make sure you really have the hang of it. Okay, so here we get 13 goes before the decimal, and 74/100ths goes after. 8 goes before the decimal, 6/10ths goes after. 9 and 6/100ths. 83. Oops. 83. Not 6. And 5/100ths. All right, we can also go the other way and write decimals as mixed numbers. So the whole number part here is 3. And then this other side, this is our fraction. And we're just going to write the same numbers, 1, 4. And then because it is 2 digits past the decimal point, our bottom is 100th. It's 14/100ths. So here are some examples again. Go ahead and try these. Okay, so we end up with 2, whole number part, and then 7/10ths. This one, 3, and then 7/100ths. 4, and 80/100ths. Oops, I put a decimal. You can also write this as 4 and 8/10ths. Both are correct. This one, 235 is the whole number part, and then past the decimal is just the number 6, so it's 6/10ths. And here, 17 and 9 tenths. All right. There we go. Okay, so this next part, we are going to write decimals as words. So that would be how we'd pronounce it out loud. Did I already write this? Here we go. So here where we start, we just say 3. So we write the word 3. Then for the decimal point, we write and. Here's the next number, so we write 17 hundredths. All right, so we have a bunch of practice with this. So for the first part, you're just going to fill in the missing number or the missing word. So like for part A, 4.08. So you're going to fill in blank and 8 hundredths. What number goes in there? So go ahead and try these. What goes in the blank? Okay, and this is what you should have gotten. 4 and 8 hundredths, because here's 4. 17 and 6 tenths. 16 and 5 tenths. 3 and 7 hundredths. Okay, now we have a little bit harder group. Go ahead and pause the video and try to fill in what goes in this blank. So we'd have 38 and 14 hundredths. 14 hundredths was the missing part. 30 and 8 tenths, that was the missing part. 3 and 8 hundredths, the word hundredths was missing. 4 and, you need to write and when there's a decimal point, 17 hundredths. All right, so now we need just a little more practice. Try to write the whole thing out, or at least say it out loud while you're watching this. What would be the words version of this? And don't write 3.8, write the way with hundredths or tenths. Hopefully you tried this. So for part A, we get 3 and 8 tenths. 3 and 8 tenths. And then 26 and 9 hundredths. 30 and 40 hundredths. 41 and 5 tenths. That's how we would say those decimals kind of officially. All right, and in this part, we're going to write the decimal after reading the words. So go ahead and jot down what decimal this is. Shouldn't take long. You can pause the video. All right, so here we'd write 12 and 13 hundredths. Here we'd write 50 and 3 tenths. 2 and 53 hundredths. 200 and 5 hundredths. So that should be what you got there. All right, so here's a quick review before we go to part 3. We worked on writing improper fractions as mixed numbers, and one way you can do that is with division. As you may recall, this sign in a fraction is just a lazy division sign without the dots. So what is 7 divided by 3? Okay, well 3 goes into 7 twice. You get 6. And there is a remainder of 1. And so, if you want to write this as a fraction, you'd write 2, and now you take the remainder 1, and then you take the denominator third. Hopefully you guys kind of remember doing that. You can also do this with 24/10. 24 divided by 10. 2 times 10 is 20. Get 4. Remainder 4. So you would get 2 and 4/10. So that would be how we convert into a mixed number. Okay, so go ahead and try these as a bit of a practice problem. Hopefully you can pause the video and try. Okay, so for this one we'd end up with 3 and 1/10. This one we would end up with 1 and 4/10. And for this last one, I guess I'll show you in case this one is a little crazier. Okay, 100 times 8 is 800. So we get 52 here. So here we get 8 and 52 100ths. All right, we have just a couple more practice problems. Go ahead and try these. Pause the video. So here we get 7 and 3/10. And here we'd get 5, because 500 divided by 100 is just 5, and there's no remainder. Okay, hopefully that refreshed your memory a little. So many layers today. Okay, so now we are moving on. We're going to write improper fractions as decimals. So to do this, first we'll change to a mixed number. Okay, so we would get 3 and 82 100ths. And now we're going to change that to a decimal. It should be 3 and 82 100ths. So that is one way of changing this improper fraction into a decimal. Now we have some practice. So go ahead and see if you can change these into decimals. You can change them into a mixed number first. I can help you do that. Okay, hopefully you have had time to try this. So here we would get 2 and 8/10, or 2 and 8/10. Okay, and this one, get 1 and 54 100ths, or 1.54. Here we get 7 and 69 100ths. 7 and 69 100ths would be the decimal here. Here we get 6 and 1/10, or 6.1. Hopefully your answer's checked out. Okay, and now this is kind of a shortcut. We're going to go over for doing this. So these are just the answers we just gave on the last slide. 28/10 ended up being 2.8, etc. So the top number tells you what to write. So this is 28, so I could just write 28. This is 154, so I wrote 154. This says 769, so guess what I wrote? 769. this is 61, so I wrote 61. Now the bottom tells you how many digits would be after the decimal place. So there is 1 0 here. So 1 digit is after the decimal place. There are 2 zeros here, so 2 digits are after the decimal place. 2 zeros, so there should be 2 digits after the decimal place. 1 0, there should be 1 digit after the decimal place. So that's kind of our shortcut. All right, so let's practice with our shortcut. Go ahead and try doing this. And hopefully you have paused it. So I'm going to use our shortcut. I'm just going to write the top number, 497. Okay. Now there's 2 zeros, so I'm going to count 2 digits, 1, 2, and then I'll put the decimal point. Okay. For B, I'll write 8, 4, because that's on the top. And now these are 2 digits, 1, 2. Okay. Here I'll write 604. 2 zeros, so we'll count 1, 2 digits, and then put the decimal point. I'll write the top number, 307. Now there's 1 0 here, so 1 digit, and then I'll put the decimal point. Hopefully that helps. Oops. Okay. So now we'll kind of go the opposite way. We'll take a decimal and write it as an improper fraction. So here we have 314 and 8 hundredths. So on the top, we'll just write all these numbers, 31408. 31408. Just wrote all those numbers. Now we have to decide what goes in the bottom of our fraction. Well, we see that there are 2 digits here after the decimal point. So that means there's going to be 2 zeros in our answer. So there we are, left with 100. So we'll end up with 31408 over 100. Okay, and here is a practice for us. This is my division sign, or my fraction sign. Fractions are division. Okay, here we go. Go ahead and decide what goes in the top and bottom of the fraction. And hopefully you gave this a try. The top of this is 54 because it says 5, 4. Now there's only 1 digit after the decimal, so the bottom will be 10. Okay, for part B, of course, I write 607 on top. There's 2 digits after the decimal point, so I write 100. For part C, I write 803 on top. Now there's 1 digit after the decimal point, so 10 will be on the bottom. And for this last one, I'll write 5476. Then I count there's 2 digits after the decimal point, so I'll put 100 on the bottom. All right, here is our last part. Can get it set up. This is just showing how you could convert tenths into an equivalent amount of hundredths. So this part should be reviewed. So with fractions, 7/10 is the same thing as 71/100. So that means that if you put a number in front of it like 3, that doesn't change the fraction part. So 3 and 7/10 is the same as 3 and 71/100. You could also say 5 and 7/10 is the same as 5 and 71/100. You could also say 52,587 and 7/10 is the same as 52,587 and 71/100. So that front number will just stay the same. Now, if you made this into a decimal, 7/10 is still equal to 71/100. There's a 0 added here, but it means the same thing. And so if you made this into a decimal, it would also be the same. 3.7 equals 3.70. Same thing. All right, so write each of these as decimal 100ths. Pause the video and give it a try. Then I'll show the answers here. So 4.8 would be the same as 4.80. You need that to be in the hundredths place if you want to write decimal hundredths. Okay, now this one is a fraction, so I'm going to change it into a decimal part first, 3.5. Okay, it's not in hundredths yet though, so I'm going to change it 3.50. Okay, now this one's in a fraction, so we need to make it a decimal, 4.50. And now it's in decimal hundredths. And this one is in tenths, so let's add our hundredths place. All right, and then one more activity. There we go. Now we're going to write this as decimal tenths, each of these. Go ahead and try it. Okay, 5.80 is the same as 5.8. Now it's in tenths. This one's in a fraction, so let's change it to tenths. This one's in a fraction, so let me change it to tenths here, 6.90. Okay, that's still hundredths, so let's get rid of that hundredths digit. There we go. And this one is in hundredths, so we're going to cross off that 0 there, which we don't need, 174.3. Now it is all in decimal tenths. So hopefully you found all these examples helpful. And if you have any questions, please write them on the math document so I know. And then go ahead and try your boss question.